The Good News of Yeshua the Messiah as reported by Mattityahu. Chapter 1. This is the genealogy of Yeshua the Messiah, son of David, son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Yitzchak. Yitzchak was the father of Yaakov. Yaakov was the father of Yehuda and his brothers. Yehuda was the father of Peretz and Zerach. Their mother was Tamar. Peretz was the father of Hezron. Hezron was the father of Ram. Ram was the father of Amminadab. Amminadab was the father of Nahshon. Nahshon was the father of Salmon. Salmon was the father of Boaz. His mother was Rachab. Boaz was the father of Obed. His mother was Ruth. Obed was the father of Yeshai. Yeshai was the father of David the king. David was the father of Shlomo. His mother was the wife of Uriah. Shlomo was the father of Rechabam. Rechabam was the father of Aviah. Aviah was the father of Asa. Asa was the father of Yehoshaphat. Yehoshaphat was the father of Joram. Joram was the father of Uzziyahu. Uzziyahu was the father of Jotam. Jotam was the father of Achaz. Achaz was the father of Hizkiyahu. Hizkiyahu was the father of Manasseh. Manasseh was the father of Ammon. Ammon was the father of Yoshiyahu. Yoshiyahu was the father of Yekaniah and his brothers at the time of the exile to Babel. After the Babylonian exile, Yekaniah was the father of Shealtiel. Shealtiel was the father of Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel was the father of Abihud. Abihud was the father of Eliakim. Eliakim was the father of Azur. Azur was the father of Tazadok. Tazadok was the father of Yakin. Yakin was the father of Elichud. Elichud was the father of Elazar. Elazar was the father of Mattan. Mattan was the father of Yaakov. Yaakov was the father of Yosef, the husband of Mayam, from whom was born the Yeshua, who is called the Messiah. Thus there were 14 generations from Abraham to David, 14 generations from David to the Babylonian exile, and 14 generations from the Babylonian exile to the Messiah. Here is how the birth of Yeshua the Messiah took place. When his mother, Mayam, was engaged to Yosef, before they were married, she was found to be pregnant from the Rosh Hakodesh. Her husband-to-be Yosef was a man who did what was right, so he made plans to break the engagement quietly, rather than put her to public shame. But while he was thinking about this, an angel of Adonai appeared to him in a dream, and said, "Yosef, son of David, do not be afraid to take Miriam home with you as your wife, for what has been conceived in her is from the Rosh Hakodesh. She will give birth to a son, and you are to name him Yeshua, which means Adonai saves, because he will save his people from their sins." All this happened in order to fulfill what Adonai had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and bear a son, and they will call him Emmanuel. The name means God is with us. When Yosef awoke, he did what the angel of Adonai had told him to do. He took Miriam home to be his wife, but he did not have sexual relations with her until she had given birth to a son, and he named him Yeshua. Chapter 2. After Yeshua was born in Beit-Lechem in the land of Yehuda during the time when Herod was king, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? For we saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard of this, he became very agitated, and so did everyone else in Jerusalem. He called together all the head Cohanim and Torah teachers of the people, and asked them, "Where will the Messiah be born?" "In Beit-Lechem of Yehuda," they replied, because the prophet wrote, "And you, Beit-Lechem, in the land of Yehuda, are by no means the least among the rulers of Yehuda, for from you will come a ruler, who will shepherd my people, Israel." Herod summoned the Magi to meet with him privately, and asked them exactly when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Beit-Lechem with these instructions: "Search carefully for the child, and when you find him, let me know, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had listened to the king, they went away, and the star which they had seen in the east went in front of them, until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. Upon entering the house, they saw the child with his mother Miriam, and they prostrated themselves and worshipped him. Then they opened their bags and presented him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. But they had been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, so they took another route back to their own country. After they had gone, an angel of Adonai appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt, and stay there until I tell you to leave. For Herod is going to look for the child in order to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother, and left during the night for Egypt, where he stayed until Herod died. This happened in order to fulfill what Adonai had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." Meanwhile, when Herod realized that the Magi had tricked him, he was furious and gave orders to kill all the boys in and around Beit-Lechem who were 2 years old or less, calculating from the time the Magi had told him. In this way were fulfilled the words spoken through the prophet Yirmiyahu. A voice was heard in Ramah, sobbing and lamenting loudly. It was Rachel sobbing for her children and refusing to be comforted, because they are no longer alive. After Herod's death, an angel of Adonai appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to Eretz Yisrael, for those who want to kill the child are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother, and went back to Eretz Yisrael. However, when he heard that Archelaus had succeeded his father Herod as king of Judah, he was afraid to go there. Warned in a dream, he withdrew to the Galilee and settled in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken by the prophets might be fulfilled, that he will be called a Nazarite. Chapter 3. It was during those days that Yochanan the immerser arrived in the desert of Yehuda and began proclaiming the message, "Turn from your sins to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near." This is the man Yeshayahu was talking about when he said, "The voice of someone crying out in the desert, prepare the way of Adonai, make straight paths for him." Yochanan wore clothes of camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist, and his food was locusts and wild honey. People went out to him from Jerusalem, from all Yehuda, and from the whole region around the Jordan. Confessing their sins, they were immersed by him in the Jordan River. And when Yochanan saw many of the pharisees and the Tz'dukim coming to be immersed by him, he said to them, "You snakes, who warned you to escape the coming punishment? If you have really turned from your sins to God, produce fruit that will prove it. And don't suppose you can comfort yourselves by saying, 'Abraham is our father,' for I tell you that God can raise up for Abraham sons from these stones. Already the axe is at the root of the trees, ready to strike. Every tree that doesn't produce good fruit will be chopped down and thrown in the fire. It's true that I'm immersing you in water, so that you might turn from sin to God. But the one coming after me is more powerful than I. I'm not worthy even to carry his sandals, and he will immerse you in the Hakodesh and in fire. He has with him his winnowing fork, and he will clear out his threshing floor, gathering his wheat into the barn, but burning up the straw with unquenchable fire." Then Yeshua came from the Galilee to the Jordan to be immersed by Yochanan. But Yochanan tried to stop him. "You are coming to me? I ought to be immersed by you." However, Yeshua answered him, "Let it be this way now, because we should do everything righteousness requires." Then Yochanan let him. As soon as Yeshua had been immersed, he came up out of the water. At that moment heaven was opened. He saw the Spirit of God coming down upon him like a dove, and a voice from heaven said, "This is my Son, whom I love. I am well pleased with him." Chapter 4. Then the Spirit led Yeshua up into the wilderness to be tempted by the adversary. After Yeshua had fasted 40 days and nights, he was hungry. The tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, order these stones to become bread." But he answered, "The Tanakh says, 'Man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of Adonai.'" Then the adversary took him to the holy city and set him on the highest point of the temple. "If you are the Son of God," he said, "jump, for the Tanakh says, he will order his angels to be responsible for you. They will support you with their hands, so that you will not hurt your feet on the stones." Yeshua replied to him, "But it also says, 'Do not put Adonai your God to the test.'" Once more, the adversary took him up to the summit of a very high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world and all their glory, and said to him, "All this I will give you if you will bow down and worship me." "Away with you, Satan," Yeshua told him, "for the Tanakh says, 'Worship Adonai your God and serve only him.'" Then the adversary let him alone, and angels came and took care of him. When Yeshua heard that Yochanan had been put in prison, he returned to the Galilee, but he left Nazareth and came to live in Kafar Nachum, a lakeshore town near the boundary between Zebulun and Naphtali. This happened in order to fulfill what Yeshayahu the prophet had said, "Land of Zebulun and land of Naphtali, toward the lake, beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the Cohanim. The people living in darkness have seen a great light. Upon those living in the region, in the shadow of death, light has dawned." From that time on, Yeshua began proclaiming, "Turn from your sins to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near." As Yeshua walked by Lake Kinneret, he saw two brothers who were fishermen, Shimon, known as Kepher, and his brother Andrew, throwing their net into the lake. Yeshua said to them, "Come after me, and I will make you fishers for men." At once they left their nets and went with him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, Yaakov ben Zabdi and Yochanan his brother, in the boat with their father Zabdi, repairing their nets, and he called them. At once they left their boat and their father and went with Yeshua. Yeshua went all over the Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing people from every kind of disease and sickness. Word of him spread throughout all Syria, and people brought to him all who were ill, suffering from various diseases and pains, and those held in the power of demons, and epileptics, and paralytics, and he healed them. Huge crowds followed him from the Galilee, the 10 towns, Jerusalem, Yehuda, and Ever HaYarden.